Everyone, this is Bill Coots from Senior Advisory Group. Really want to thank you for taking time out this morning from your schedule to join us. We've got a really interesting program today. First thing we want to talk about, we talk a lot about how do we get our top advisors to share their ideas, what's working in the marketplace for them that may work for you as well, and everybody always wants to pick the brain of the advisors out there that are doing business the right way, first of all, and doing a lot of it. And we actually are fortunate enough to have that guest this morning with us, and I'm going to introduce him shortly. But what you really want to take away is with our model, honestly, we want to succeed just like you do. Our success is tied directly to the success of you. The only way we grow our business is to help you grow your business. And we love to bring ideas to the table, sales solutions, marketing concepts, access to our top advisors, etc. And we're kicking off a series here, again, with one of our top guys to share some ideas around, products in the marketplace and how you really need to be looking at those as competing products when you're out there working with your clients. And again, real quick about us, we have many unique client engagement strategies, a lot of customized marketing initiatives. We have an in-house business strategist as well, Robert Van Arlen, who's actually listening in today. We have a diverse portfolio of financial products, and we're going to cover one of those today. And then also maybe I think our guest speaker is going to hit on another one at the end. And we also have a partnership with an RIA now, and more to come. And again, as I said at the beginning, we want to give you access to top advisors because many of you call the office and say, hey, I would really love to hear what are other advisors doing out there in the marketplace? How do they position a particular product, a particular concept? So we're bringing that to you today due to high demand and also due to some conversations that we've been having here in the office. Now, what we're going to do is when I introduce our guest speaker, we're going to take a head-to-head look at the balance allocation annuity against the security benefit total value annuity. Now, the material that you're going to see today, I want to let you know up front that you're going to see some spreadsheets. These are not available for you, okay? That would be, number one, a compliance nightmare to put that together for your use. And it really doesn't matter, to be honest with you. Take away the knowledge that you're going to get from listening to our advisor talk, okay? He did the work. He created the spreadsheet so he could better understand how these products actually work and which ones are better for the client. It's broken down for you. But as far as getting the access to the spreadsheets, it's immaterial, okay? Don't get caught up in that. Understand the why. And without further ado, I want to bring our guest speaker into the equation. Steve, are you there this morning?
Hey, good morning, Bill.
Hey, good morning. So with us this morning, we have Steve Van Meter. It's always a pleasure to talk to Steve. You know, Steve's been in the business for over 12 years now. He's a fee-based investment advisor. We actually share that same background. In 2012, he had a great year, over $8 million in balance allocation premium. He's never had a chargeback. He's never had a free look. He's never had a complaint. And the reason why, he's going to share with you. He goes the extra mile to understand what he's positioning for his client solutions. A lot of the things that he does, he may not necessarily share with the client, but he has a better understanding of every product and feature and benefit and solution out there in the marketplace. So when he actually makes his recommendations, he has that knowledge and that confidence to make the recommendation to know that that's the right fit for the client. Would you say that's kind of accurate, Steve?
That is 100% accurate.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this over to you. I'll jump in and out as needed, but I really want you to set the stage here and maybe talk a little bit more first about the research and how you actually dive into the products.
Great. Well, thank you, Bill, for having me on this morning. I also want to thank Senior Advisory Group for hosting this, and also want to put a word out to my marketer, Todd Stern. And this was an idea he and I talked about, and I think what I really want to impress to everyone on this call before we get started is my relationship with Senior Advisory isn't that I go to them and I get a product. This is a whole team. Steve Stern and Robert Van Arlen and Bill and myself and Todd, we're a team looking at ways to improve my business. And before I came on board with Senior Advisor, I was running $1 maybe to $3 million a year in fixed production, and like we said last year, we did 8, and I think that's really cool. So what I'd like to do today is share with you how it is I do what I do. And a lot of people call and ask me, what does it make that makes you successful? Well, one of the things that I do that I think is different than a lot of other agents is I spend a lot of time researching a product before I recommend it. I want to know what it is my clients are going to get 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road, 15 or 20, because not only do I want them to stay, but I take trail commissions on everything I sell. I want to make sure my checks are coming in too, and that they're going to have a great experience. They're going to refer their friends and their family and their coworkers, and they're going to be happy. So what I do is I break down these products, how they work, what they should return, how the living benefits work. Now, how do I do this? Where do I get this information from? Well, I get information from the carrier. I pour over all of the stuff, their brochures, all the same stuff you get, but I'm looking for the stuff in between the lines. I also go to IMOs, and I get the information from them, and Todd and Bill provide me all the information I need. But here's the thing. I don't make my decision solely based on what the carrier says or what any IMO says. I break it down and go in between the lines and figure it out and put all of it together. So with that, my goal is really to communicate my expertise to my clients. And this is really important because if I go down to a car dealership today and I say, you know, I'm here because I'm thinking about buying a car, the guy's going to go into sales mode and try to close me as quickly as possible. But really maybe what I want to do is learn from him and try to figure out which model, which features, and which things I want, and then have him say, well, Steve, based on what you're looking for, I feel one of these is the best fit. Which one would you like? Or which color could I get for you? And then I pick. My clients I don't sell my clients. They choose what they want. And when you think about that from a sales strategy, it's really important. If you go into any store and you pick something up off the shelf and you say, I want this, you bought it. You didn't have someone telling you, you know what, you should take this. And then later on, if you're not happy, you're going to blame the salesman. My clients don't blame me for anything because I give them all the information they need. I show them which annuities are better and why. I will tell you, even though in this presentation we're going to compare the BAA to the TVA, there are cases where neither one of them are good. There are other annuities out there. So what happens because of this process that I do, my clients have total satisfaction, not only with me, but their decision to buy the annuity. There's no point in the future that they say, hey, Steve, this wasn't what you explained it to me. They say, hey, you know what, you said that this could happen, and it did. And that's okay, and that's exactly what we want. So what we're going to do today, I want to share with you, is a little bit of a story that happened a couple weeks ago. I had a couple come in my office, and they were talking about hiring someone. He's got $700,000 he wants to roll over in the next 2 months. And he said, Steve, I've gone and talked to a lot of advisors, and you're kind of the last one I'm here to see. And here's the deal. I'm looking for someone to manage this $700,000. And I don't know if I want annuity or what I want, but I'm looking strongly at annuity. But here's the deal. Whoever I hire, I have another $1 million. And if you do a good job and you prove to me that you are a good steward of my money, I will give you my other $1 million. Not today, not tomorrow, but in a couple of years. I don't want to manage it anymore. It will be yours. What a great sale. Potentially $700,000 followed by $1 million. Well, in the middle of our meeting, he slides across the table a illustration for the security benefit total value annuity. He said, Steve, what do you think of this product? And I said, well, there's some things about it that I don't like a whole lot. There's some things about it I just don't think are that good for my clients. And I left it at that. And know what he said? He said, well, what are they? I said, well, I don't know. Are you pretty serious about buying this? Did you already make that decision? He goes, well, it looks really good, but I'm not sure. I'm like, well, do you really want to know? He says, Steve, the reason I came to see you is because I know from other people you work with that you're an expert and that you'll give me an unbiased opinion on what this is. And so I began to share with him some of the things we're going to talk about today on this call about the TVA. And halfway through, and all I did was say, did your agent explain to you how this worked? The answer was no. Did the agent explain to you about this? Well, no. Well, let me tell you. Halfway through, as I'm going to go through today, he slid the illustration completely across the table. He goes, would you like this? And I said, I don't understand. And I slid it back. I said, I thought you were looking at buying this. He shoved it back and he said, I've already made up my mind. I want to know what you recommend. Do you see how powerful that is? It's extremely powerful. So today we're going to look at analysis of the BAA versus the total value annuity. You're going to see a spreadsheet that I created. As Bill mentioned, it's unfortunately not available for distribution, but what you're going to see is real-world performance. I actually personally back-tested these things. Because when I hear a carrier say, hey, we back-tested the performance or we did this, I want to know, is it right? So I've done my own research of 30 years back-testing on the S&P 500. You're actually going to see the real working model spreadsheet. I'm going to show you how the living benefits work, how long the money will last in these annuities, and we're going to talk about them also as accumulation vehicles, because while living benefits are very popular as people want income riders, there are lots of people out there that still buy annuities for accumulation. They just don't want to lose money. So let's take a look at the total value annuity. For those of you who are not familiar with Security Benefits' newest product, it's a fixed index annuity. It has two riders, a guaranteed lifetime withdrawal benefit and a guaranteed minimum death benefit. Now in today's call, we're not going to break down every little iteration of each product. We're going to focus just on the base annuity and then the lifetime withdrawal benefit rider, because that's most of what people are buying. This annuity has a bonus of either 8% or 10% up front. If you're in California like me, it's a little less of 7 or 9%, and that depends on if you take the income rider with it or not. In terms of liquidity, in the first year, there's no option, but there's 10% after the first year, just customary like most annuities. It has two indexing options, which we're going to look at in detail, both of those, an annual point-to-point with a cap, and then a 5-year annuity-linked TVI with a spread. So now comparison to the balanced allocation annuity, it also is a fixed index annuity. It has 3 riders, a premium bonus, a family endowment, and the Baylor, the BA lifetime income rider. Again, for today's purpose, we're not going to talk about the premium bonus or the family endowment rider. We're going to focus on just the base annuity and the income rider. It comes in 3 flavors, an 8, 10, or 12-year surrender. The bonus is an option, so it's not unlike the TVA where you get the bonus irregardless. With the BAA, it is an option, and there is an additional fee for that. In the first year, you can take out 5%, and after the first year, you can take out 10% a year. There is essentially one indexing option. Now, there's 3 versions of it, but they're all 2-year point-to-point with a spread, and we're going to look at how those have returned as well. So in my own research, let's take a look here as we see an annual point-to-point with a cap on the total value annuity. And as of today, the cap on this product is 2.75%. Now, based on my research, this tells me that a client will expect an average return of 1.99% a year over the life of the product. Now, some of you may be a little startled by this, because when we look at the cap, it's very easy to tell our clients, well, this is the cap, and this is probably what you're going to make every year. But in every cap product, you never make all the cap over time. So, Bill, I can go ahead and have you switch over to my spreadsheet here. I'm going to show you how this thing kind of looks over time.
You bet.
There we go. Okay, so everyone, is that pulled up on my spreadsheet now?
Yep.
Okay, so looking up here, you see it says point-to-point cap. And now what's really cool is I have modeled multiple strategies in this spreadsheet. So I can go back. There's almost no product out there in the market that I can't get an idea of how it works. And if there is something different, I just go ahead and I create a model of it. So in this example, wait, I want to switch over to this slide here. We have a point-to-point cap in the SBL product of 2.75%. And you see over here, it says average annual return. And what this spreadsheet is doing is calculating all the returns over a 30-year period, and it's averaging them down to 1.99%. And the reason that happens is because here you can see in this year, the market returned 8.67, but the strategy capped out. Here, the market was negative, and the strategy returned 0. So when you start averaging these together, you never get all the 275. But here's one of the real interesting things that I like to point out to people that are looking at the SBL annuity is, look at here. We have a market return in December of 2010 of 17%, and the annuity capped out at 2.75. And then you look at the year prior, the market returned 35%, and the annuity capped out at 2.75. This is a real challenge. And for those of you on the phone that have a securities license, you already know what it's probably like. When the market goes way up and your client doesn't make it, it's a really difficult conversation. But how would you like to explain to your client that when the market goes up, they're going to make money, but when it goes up 35%, they're only making 275? And even if you explain that, how are they going to feel when they're meeting with their friends and their top friends are talking like, oh man, I made all this money in the market, and they get their statement and they pull it out and they say, I only made 2.75. That's a very challenging position for people to be in. And so when you see these caps, it's roughly 70% of whatever the cap is what the realistic average annual return is. And so you may not have a sophisticated spreadsheet like this, and you may not want to put it together, but here's an easy way to do it. Whatever the carrier's cap is on a point-to-point, figure about 70%, and that would be a safe annual return. So if I was going to recommend this product to a client, I'm going to give them a very realistic idea. I'm not going to tell them they're going to make 275 every year. I'm going to say realistically you're going to average maybe a little under 2%, but I'm going to disclose to them in my meeting. There will be some years where the market makes really high returns. You will not get that. I want them to know that up front. So let's go ahead and switch back, and we will do this. And hopefully this works out correctly. And Bill, you should be back in the driver's.
And you said something, Steve, that I just want to jump in and say, as far as, stock market returns and seeing the market take off, 20% and 30% and having those cap conversations, I think the moral of the story here is you have a securities license, as do I, and for a number of years, selling accumulation against the market. We both could probably agree that the market over time is going to beat everything out there. But the reason why you position the indexed annuities that you position is really, safety, security, and those guaranteed solutions, right?
That is correct. And I know a lot of people on the call are thinking that, hey, well, my client isn't worried about that. And that's correct. When the market is really weak, they're worried about protecting their money. But when the market's hot and everyone else is making money, and they're not going to like it. I mean, and any of you that have been in this business a long time and sold index annuities, because everyone remembers this is one of the very original strategies. We've all had clients cap out, and when they catch it, if they notice it and they look and say, gosh, I only made 275 and the market did 20%, all of a sudden their happiness goes way down. And potential referrals and things like that also go down, which is why I make sure my clients know up front, if you do this, this is what your expectation is. If they say, that's not right for me, then maybe the annuity or whichever thing we're looking at is not right for them. But I want them to know before they sign the application what their realistic expectation is. So that way when they call in a couple of years, if the market has a really big and say, hey, Steve, I see I capped out. I'm really kind of disappointed. And I said, well, do you remember in our meeting I told you that our expectation is that it would average this? Yeah, I remember that. But, I was just disappointed. And then that's where we go to the next step. Well, Bill, I remember when we met 3 years ago, you told me guaranteeing your income was more important than returns. Oh, I know, Steve. I know. You're right. I just want to know, do you have any other options, or is this just how it is? You know, they remember that because you disclosed it to them up front. And that's really the key here. In this case, Bill's still happy. He just wanted to see if there was a little more there. No, I remember we got the income guaranteed so I can retire and all that. That's cool. But he knows what this is really going to do. So that's the annual point-to-point with a cap strategy. You should really be clear that to your clients that they should probably not likely average more than 2% a year. But really, that's not why people are looking and buying the security benefit total value annuity. They're really, all the buzz is on this 5-year annuity-linked TVI index with a spread. And currently the spread is 0.5%. And this is how it works. They look at the TVI index over a 5-year period. Each year, the security benefit will deduct 0.5%, or by the end, a total of 2.5%, and that will be returned. So now the really question is, well, what has this thing actually done? So let's go ahead and take a look. Now, you notice I'm not switching over to my spreadsheet because data on the annuity-linked TVI is very difficult to get. But I can put it up in a chart form, and here you can see this is the lifetime history of the annuity-linked TVI index, and you can see that since it came out, that it has actually not posted a positive return over a 5-year period. And we're going to get into that here in a couple of slides, but it has been down. So let's go to the next slide. And I think the best way to see it is in comparison to something else. And what I've done now is I've overlaid the S&P 500. So you can see there that 2008 crash of the market. And the TVI did pretty good. It was flat, which would be nice, especially if they were your securities client. But look at what happened since the market crashed. We all know the S&P has been up. And the reason I'm pointing this out is because anybody, whether they're in a cap product or any other kind of product tied to the S&P index, has made money over the same time period. And now it's very easy to see the TVI is down. So here's what a lot of people don't really know. The TVI index was created in June of 2009. Yes, in June of 2009. There is actually no 5-year back-tested history on it. It does not exist. Some of you might be surprised to hear this. All the back-testing you've heard from Security Benefit and all their brochures is simulated. And I'm going to show you what simulated means. No interest has ever been paid. This product came out last year. This strategy is brand new. If the 5-year mark ended today, if you had a client in it 5 years ago, which you couldn't have because it didn't exist, but let's just say you did and it ended today, nobody would make any interest. Nobody. So not only is this strategy never paid interest, no one, if they were in it today, would be paid any interest. Meanwhile, there isn't any other index annuity strategy that I have seen that over the same time period hasn't made money. But you say, you know, I got this brochure here, and it shows this recent and least and median best, and I see this 3%, 7.38%, and 8.63. I'm telling my clients that on average they could be getting over 7% a year. Now this is the part of the brochure that's easy to see because it's got big numbers and a chart. But if you scroll down below that and you look, there's a big disclosure beneath that that looks like that. And I'm willing to bet virtually nobody, including a prospective client, will read that. But here's what I did, and remember that couple that was in my office and they were talking about it? And I asked them, did your agent explain to you that the back-tested results on this annuity are simulated? And they said, what do you mean simulated? No, that doesn't sound right. We don't understand that. Well, here's what I did. I pulled open the illustration, and in that big block of text, I pulled out my highlighter, and I highlighted this sentence. For the annuity-linked TVI index, the least, median, and best index increases over the 10-year period were based on a simulated index as reported by Bloomberg. Now, mind you, I just showed you the Bloomberg history, and I highlighted and underlined simulated index. So let's go to the next slide. And so I showed them, again, this data. I said, well, let's look at this. Now, let's keep in mind that the TVI index was invented in 2009. Well, if you look at the recent history over 2002 to 2012, well, it didn't exist in 2002. The TVI index only existed for 3 of those years. And over the lease, it only existed for 3 of those years. And over the median period, it says 1995 to 2005. Well, isn't that interesting? The index didn't even exist. And over the best period of 8.63%, it was between 1993 and 2003. Well, isn't that funny? The index didn't exist. And the client's like, well, but that's not. But our agent said that's the back-tested result. I said, what your agent didn't explain is security benefit went back in history and took all the pieces that would have made up the index but didn't make up the index because index didn't exist, and they created these simulated returns. They are not accurate, they're not back-tested, and they're not proven. So while they're showing this, security benefit in the disclosure made very clear it's simulated. Now, as an agent, if you tell your client that these are back-tested results, you've got a problem. Because if they don't occur and the client gets upset and they call their attorney, you know what security benefit's going to say? Well, on our disclosure, it said here it's simulated, and the client's going to tell their attorney, well, that's not what he told me. He said it was back-tested. I thought I was going to get a 7 to 8% a year return. That's a problem. So when you look at this index, it's a 5-year annuity-linked TVI with a spread, has a 0.5% spread. The average return on this has been 0. The average return has been 0. And it's very important that this is something your clients want to understand. Because right now the S&P is up and the TVI is down. And when they get their statements, they're going to be excited. Hey, they told me this was a market-neutral index. It was made up of all of these pieces, and it can go up under any market condition, and they're going to get their statements. And you know what they're going to see? 0. They're going to see 0.
You know,
but
Steve,
here's the great
Steve, I want to jump in real quick here because you made a great point about all the simulation and the back testing and such. And when we move into the Annexus discussion, you know, it's so important for everybody to remember that when you're seeing all the stuff that comes from Annexus and from Aviva as far as back testing that you've done a great job of explaining, we're looking at a real index that actually existed, and we're taking that over 30 years of time. And what you just said here, as far as the market being up, we have case after case after case in the office, and I want people on the phone when we're done with this to call here and talk to your advisor development representative. We have real statements, you know, 2011 products going into force, currently being up north of 20%, while that TVI index is actually down over 20%. So if you want the real, because we're going to do a lot of comparison here, and Steve's doing an excellent job, but if you want to see, you know, the products and the real statements, we also have those here for you to see as well. So Steve, back to you.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Bill, because I actually print out some of the statements from time to time on the web, and I have a little binder in case someone has any questions on return, and I actually do have clients that have made the returns that you're referring to, and I have them in print. And I think that's really powerful when you're doing a comparison. But back to the TVA here real quick. If I was going to sell this product to a client and I was going to put them in these 5-year annuity-linked TVI, not only would I want to be very clear to them that this is the only company that is offering this indexing strategy, that it has not been around for 5 years, and that the returns are simulated, I may even go as far as having them sign a disclosure or a CYA letter that says, I am aware of the features of the strategy, and that while simulated returns have looked really good, I am fully aware that as of today, it has returned 0, and that I am not purchasing this annuity for the accumulation feature. Why would I do that? I don't want to have someone complain or call my office. This is why I take the time to explain whatever the client is either looking at buying or what I'm looking at buying. I want them to know what their realistic expectation is. And who knows, maybe the TVA will be different. I don't know. All I know is what it is today, and we can only base our purchasing decisions and our recommendations on what we know today.
Hey, Steve, it's Steve Stern, and good morning and thanks, and good morning to everybody. One thing I wanted to throw in here, which you didn't mention, which I think is really, really important, I don't think a lot of people have been introduced to what AL means in the ALTVI, the annuity layover.
Oh, you mean annuity linked?
The annuity, well, yeah, but the AL is, excuse me, actually for layover, what they do is they actually place a volatility layover on the product. What that means is this, guys: the highs won't be as high and the lows won't be as low. It's a volatility reduction for the insurance company. Now, what that means to your client, their lows won't be as low, but isn't the low zero, Steve, on your indexed annuity? Isn't that our worst case scenario, zero?
That's absolutely correct.
So do I want them to manage my volatility, or would I want them to harness my volatility?
Well, we're going to get to that, Steve. You're right on pace with what where we're headed next, and that's a good point. And I want to add on to what you said. In my experience, and I think if we pulled the experience of everyone on the call and SAG's clients over the years, people that buy annuities do not want something that's complex. So many of my clients understand conceptually how it works, but if you ask them the details, they really wouldn't. And sometimes it takes a couple years for them to get it. If you actually explained all the pieces to the TVI index to them and how the volatility overlay worked, they would be so confused they wouldn't buy it. Because they say, I don't understand that. I don't want to go to Bloomberg's website. All I want to know is when I turn on the TV and I see the market's up, I made money, and when the market's down, I didn't lose. That's really, in the end of it, what they're really looking for. And that's the challenge of this crediting strategy, is it's very confusing, it's very convoluted, and it just returns zero. I mean, that's really, at the end of the day, it just hasn't done anything. So, but anyways, let's go ahead and talk about the BAA, because I really do like the BAA product. As everyone on the call knows, I did $8 million of it last year, and it wasn't because I just like selling it. I really think it's a really good product, and I want to show you why I think it's a good product, and I want to show you why my clients are so happy with it. Well, looking at the different strategies, there's an A, B, and a C strategy, and pretty much all my clients end up picking the A strategy. And here's a little sales tip, and I know there's other agents that sell B and the C strategy, but here's what I tell my clients. I'll say, hey, Steve, if we were playing baseball together and you could never lose the game would go on until you won. Would you go up to bat and bunt or hit a base hit, or would you swing for the fences knowing, hey, well, if I strike out, I get another chance? He's going to swing as hard as he can every possible time. And if he doesn't hit the ball, he's just going to laugh. He's just going to have a good, he's going to, hey, it's okay. I'll be right back and swinging at it again. So I always recommend that my clients go with the strategy A, but I don't force them to. I show them the differences. Now, many of you have seen what Annexus puts out as their back-tested return. These are mine. So looking at strategy A with the 50-50, you can see it has an average return of 3.64% over a 30-year period. Strategy B, 3.25, and strategy C, 2.87. So what I'm going to have Bill do is flip back over to my spreadsheet, and I'm going to show you what I think is really cool about this product compared to a lot of other index annuities out there, because this is really unique in the marketplace. So is my screen up now, Bill?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So what you'll see up here, and I know there's a lot of numbers on this thing, here's the 50-50 strategy. This 1% below here is to account for the fixed bucket. The 2.95 is the current spread. So the way this thing works is Aviva will deduct 2.95% off the strategy and give us a net return. And up here you see the 3.64 that I mentioned. But while that is above average return for it may be the best accumulation return of any index annuity out there, that's not the sales story here. Let me show you what my clients get excited about. If we go down, now you'll notice that there are some years that are just in white, and there's some years that are in this cream color. The cream color are the years that it's not credited, because this is, again, is a 2-year strategy. But going down here and looking at this in green, this was over the previous 2-year period from 2008 to 2012. The strategy returned almost 21%. How would you like to have that conversation with your clients? Hey, Steve, I got good news. What's that? Your annuity made 21%. Really? Wow, the market was only up, 17% last year. Yeah, well, it's a 2-year strategy, but you still make 21%. There's no other annuity that I know that has those kind of potential returns. But let's see how often it happens, because it doesn't happen all the time. The BAA product is not designed to do well in low-performing markets. But look at this. That spread here, here's a negative return. There's a 0 credit. There's no deduction for the spread, which is very nice. And here's a period where the market did 10. It made some money, but not as much as we would think, because this strategy is really geared toward those big market years. And if you've been in this business any length of time or you have a security license, the market doesn't average 5%. It's not like 5, 5, 5. It has really big years and then bad years and then really big years and then some mediocre years and really big years. What you want to do is capture those big years, and especially when we get into these income riders with a bailer, it's going to blow your mind. Here we have a market condition, 15% return. That's really cool. And you see a bunch of zeros in here, but look at this. Whoops, 22, 23% yearly almost here. Another 23% down here. How cool is that? Your clients will love this. I mean, my clients get excited. I mean, could you imagine someone who bought a fixed product making a 20% return? How do you go wrong with that? And that really you can't. So I think that is really cool, and that is definitely one of the reasons why I recommend this product. And when I show people the back-tested returns, and I show them how the BAA is very unique, people love the idea of making a lot of money. They want to see those big 20% returns. Now, I understand that most people don't buy these annuities for the return. You say, well, I really like the TVA because it's got a really good income rider. And you're right. So let's take a look at that. The TVI has something called a guaranteed lifetime withdrawal benefit. And honestly, it's second to none. This call here today is not about which product is always better or worse. And I'm not here to tell you you should never sell the security benefit product. I'm here to give you the real world expectations of it. And I will tell you today, in my professional opinion, there's nothing that has as big of a returns on the income rider in the early ages. And I'll show you that. So here's how it works. It has an annual fee of 0.95%. It has a stacked benefit of 4% plus the strategy return. So what the average return should be is 5.99%. Now, I'm not going to switch back to the spreadsheet here on this case. I was going to, but there's really no need because, as I told you before, the average return of the annuity is 1.99 a year. Added to the 4% of the guaranteed lifetime withdrawal benefit, you have an expectation that for the living benefit accumulation is going to be 6% a year. Compare that to the TVI, which we have no return data for. We have to assume it's only going to return 4%. We have to. There's no other data that shows that. So here's our expectations on the TVI. Well, how does that compare to the BAA? Well, with the BAA, we have the Baylor, the BAA Lifetime Income Rider, has the same annual fee of 0.95%. It has some really cool options, and I want to share with you how I use these because, and if Todd was live on the call, he would hear me say, I never recommend anyone use the stack growth options if they have 5 to 6 years to go before they turn the income rider on. And I know he's sitting there chuckling right now because this is a really cool product. It gives us a lot of options. And not all of our clients, when they come in and say, I'm going to retire in 10 years, and you go, great, well, I'm going to do this based on that. Well, their situation changes a little bit, and maybe your recommendation adjusts because of that. So on the fixed benefit, it accumulates, oops, I got that a little wrong. It's 7% for the first 5 years. I believe that's correct. Is that right, Bill?
Sure, 7 for 5. You're right.
Yeah, we got that. That's a little off there. And then 3% after years 6 plus. So that's really powerful. If I have a client that's going to need income in 5 to 6 years or less, There's no reason why I would pick one of those other options. And I'm going to show you why in the spreadsheet, because those other two options are looking for one of those big market return years. But guess what? In my data, those big year returns from the market come between the 6th and the 8th year. The guys at Genesis and Annexus who developed this product, they really know what they're doing, and it's really validated here. There's two other options. There's a stack growth option that has 4% plus the strategy return, and then the SGO Max, which I think is really cool, and I'll show you why when this came out. I plugged it right into my spreadsheet, and man, I was excited. It does 3% a year plus the strategy return. If you net these out, the average SGO return over a 30-year period is over 7% on the accumulation for the income rider. The SGO Max is over 9%. So let's flip over to my spreadsheet, Bill, and take a look at how I came up with that. So the reason the BAA is such a difference maker for people long term is simply because it has that uncapped strategy where it can put up some big numbers. So let's look at these columns over here, and you can see I have the 7% part correct for the first 5 years, but I'm not worried about the fixed bucket. Let's look at the Baylor and the Baylor doubler here, the SGO and the SGO Max. Coming down to this 2010 year return, remember I said it did almost 19%? Well, if your client had bought the SGO, they did 22 on their income rider. Nobody else, no other product can do that. If you had the doubler, could you imagine the conversation you would have with your client and said, hey, your income rider went up almost 41%? Do you want to talk about a happy client? It's going to be amazing. And so we keep going down, and you see, okay, well, there's a bunch of years where it didn't do a whole lot. Yeah, well, these strategies are for the long haul. Here's a 17% and a 30% credit on the income rider. That's incredible. Keep going down to these two really big years. Could you imagine if your client would have bought in between this 4-year period where in 1 year they could have had anywhere from a 25 to 45% credit, and then 2 years later had it happen again? When I show this to my clients, and I explain to them how the BAA credits interest, and I had a client that had about 10 years ago, before they were going to retire, and they moved all of their money into the annuity after I explained to them how this worked because they wanted it for income. And I asked them, I didn't say, should you do, which of these, I recommend this strategy. I said, I don't recommend the fixed one, but what do you think between the SGO and the SGO Max? And the client said, there's no question. Over a 10-year period, the SGO Max is the way to go. It's worth taking the chance, and it absolutely is. There's no other income rider that I have looked at that has the potential and the back-tested results to generate these type of numbers. And this is what your clients are going to get excited about. And then when it happens, they're clients for life. They're never leaving.
Steve, you said something that I caught in there, and I want everyone else to catch it. These are long-term strategies.
Yes.
You also said the market, this is an argument we get every day, and I just say argument in the general term, but the guys will call and say, well, the market average is 10%, and if you're a 50-50 blend, and then you get 50, and that's 5, you less out your fee, you're only making a couple percent anyways. Right. And you said this earlier was, the market moves in big swings. It just doesn't chug along at 10% a year. If it averages 10, and we had a minus 40 in there somewhere, we really had a big swing upward at some point to get back to that average of 10, didn't we?
Yes, and that's what's really interesting when you start looking at index annuities, Steve, and you look at these cap strategies and you look at the monthly averages and the monthly point-to-points. Really, if you're going to sell your client an index annuity, and this is what I personally believe, and I impart it to my clients, I'll tell them, I do not care how much money you make in the low years. And they'll kind of look at me perplexed. Well, what do you mean? I said, look, if the market goes up 3 to 5%, I don't care if you make a dime. I really don't, and I'll tell them here's why. Because the next year it might go up 35%, and I want you to get a big chunk of that. And they smile and go, hey, I get what you mean. I said, I'm in it for the big hit. Because if I just bring you an average return of 1.99% a year, they go like, yeah, that's not a big deal. But if you can pick up a big 20% return at some point in the time you own it, they go, hey, that's a difference maker. You got it. And that tells me my client really understands the product. and really understands how the market works. And it's not because they may come in and they're market savvy, it's because I've really explained how the strategies work and how the annuities work and what makes the BAA unique over other annuities.
One other thing, too, that we might have missed for the guys on the call, you told me TVI, as we know, is a 5-year crediting strategy.
Correct.
So they're kind of in a black box for 5 years, don't know what they're seeing, where they're at, and they have no idea what their interest is for withdrawal, death, nursing home, etc.
Oh yeah, yes, you're absolutely correct, and we're going to touch on a little of that here in a few slides. You're absolutely right.
Okay, I don't want to steal your thunder. I didn't know if we were going there with that, but I just thought what you said was really important, guys. It's a long-term play.
Yeah. If you're going to use
moving averages.
Right. If you're using the SGO or SGO Max, and you're recommending to someone use it over a 3 or 4 year period before they turn it on, you better be making sure they buy that thing into market low, because it's just not going to return. But I tell all my clients, if you have 6 to 10 years to go before you turn the income rider on, take a look at these, and then I let them tell me, is that what you want? Do you want to do that, or do you want to take the fixed one at 7% for the first 5 years and 3 after that? And they will pick it. And when your client picks something, they own it. So if the SGO didn't work out, let's say the market didn't do very well, they go, well, 10 years later, hey, I knew what it was when I picked it. That's really cool. That's how you avoid arguments. That's how you avoid bad meetings. They say, hey, you explained it to us, and we took it. That is so
I like that,
powerful.
It's basically an alternative close. You say, look, you could have A or B, and then clients always want to be in control. So you're letting them be in control of the situation, which makes them not have buyer remorse, and thus why you don't have complaints and chargebacks, etc. Because they made the decision and you just empowered them to make the decision.
Right, and the reason you empowered them is because you educated them.
Because you educated them, absolutely.
Perfect. So, okay, great, I appreciate that, Steve. So let's go, I put a case study together because I think that's really how this thing makes sense to me, is if you can see apples to apples here. And just to be fair to the TVA product, because it does not have an inflation-adjusted income rider, for those of you on the call that don't know what that is, there are some companies, such as the BA product, that have an inflation-adjusted income rider, meaning if the consumer price index goes up, and there's some, I'm not going to be specific to any product because we're not talking about these, but your clients can have their income increase every year with inflation. Now, when I recommend these annuities, after that option came out, virtually 99% of what I show people is the inflation-adjusted option. One reason is I know their income needs to go up, so that's easy. Number two, I just lost my train of thought on that, but like I said, I need to see their income go up, which is very important. Oh yes, number two, I get more premium. Pretty cool. You get more. You need to get more premium to drive the same initial amount of income if you go with that. And so that's a great way to get a little bump. So here's a case study I put together, and we're going to, not yet, but we're going to be bouncing back to the spreadsheet to see how this plays out, because this is something that most people don't know, is how these things really work over time. So I made a couple age 60, I gave them $500,000, and they're going to do the income rider, and I'm comparing apples to apples. We're doing a level income rider. This is not inflation adjusted. Again, I did not want to make this a confusing example. And we're going to look at the absolute worst case scenario. And I tell this to all my clients, and I know, Steve, you'll love this. When I show them the very first illustration, or I show them on a spreadsheet that I put together for their retirement plan, I say, I'm showing you the worst case scenario. And the reason I'm showing you worst case, because if you don't like worst case, then the best case doesn't matter. But if worst case works for you, and we get best case, they go, oh yeah, that's even better. But if worst case works, it still works. And they go, hey, I get you. So let's take a look at what happens if this couple put $500,000 in and they needed income today, day one. They're retiring today and want to take income. I don't know, Bill, can you go ahead and switch slides on me? Or is it not working on my end?
Nope, we're going to switch that right now for you.
Okay.
There you go.
There we go. So here's the interesting thing. If your client had the total value annuity, they cannot take money out year one. Not an option. So In the BAA's case, if they want to, it has a 5% free out. Believe me, I have, last year I wrote two $2 million annuities, both because a client needed income day one. And because they needed so much income, they only wanted to put in about 1.4, but they put in another 600,000 to get the income level they want. Do the math on the commission on that deal. Very powerful. So that's a definitely advantage to the BAA, but that's really not where the story for the SBL product works. It's not until you get to year one. So at the end of year one, if we compare the income, the total value annuity clearly blows away any other annuity. And in some cases, it blows away SPIAs, single premium immediate annuities. I've seen numbers where this product puts out more income than anything else I've seen. And this is something that those of you on the call that sell this product are, hey, yeah, I know this. This thing has got the highest income. And compared to the BAA, it's almost $2,000, $2,400 a year difference. And that could be maybe a lot of income. But is that really the right answer for your client? Because how does that play out? So they got all this income now, but what's the long-term effects of the annuity? And so I've got a model for that too. So Bill, if I can have you switch over again. Okay. So here we are on the SBL spreadsheet again. And what I've done is up here in income, I put in that $27,250 a year annual income. And to be fair, and those of you on the call that have securities license and sold variable annuity companies love to show you the forward and reverse version of the market to say, well, look, if the market goes down early on, and because you bought this annuity, your income's protected. And if you bought it when the market's going up, oh, look, you're going to have millions of dollars. So to be fair, I ran it forward and backwards. So I could see how it worked under both conditions, because over the last 30 years, there's been a position where the returns were positive early on and negative early on, and I want to see how it looks. So coming down here, you should see in orange these numbers in parentheses. These are negative numbers, meaning what this tells me over a 30-year period, based on a 2.75% cap, that this product will run out of money. It's not a matter of if now, it will. The cap is not high enough to generate a positive return. So the question is, how long does this thing last typically? Well, we closed out at December 2012, and let's go down and take a look at this. And as I scroll down, I'm going to go kind of slowly so you can follow along. You'll see that it's not, the last positive spot was 2004 is where the, oh, you know what? Did I put in the income rider fee? I did. Okay. So let me go back there and I'll pause it there for you. So hopefully it's coming up on your screen. So the last point, it was around 2004 that there was some money. So over a 30-year period, we're looking at about 20 to 22 years before this thing runs out of money. Now here's what you don't know. I have run this simulation at various ages, and the security benefit product has one thing that's very unique about it. It always runs out of money around the early 80s. Every time, doesn't matter when your clients turn it on, if they're 60, 70, it doesn't matter, because security benefit pays out more as they get older. It runs out of money in the early 80s, every time. So let's go ahead, I think, and switch back over, because it doesn't matter which way I go. I want everyone to see, and this is what I tell my clients that are looking at this product. You're guaranteed to run out of money. There's no instance or no chance, unless you put all your money in the TVI index and it actually works, you're guaranteed to run out of money in your early 80s. And the reason that's so important, well, we're going to get to that in a couple of slides. So I'm going to go ahead and switch back over to the presentation. But it should be very important that you let your clients know, hey, if you buy this, I want you to know that you're probably going to run out of money. And, oh, you know what? I'm sorry, Bill. I need to switch back. I meant to show how the BAA one worked over the one-year period. I apologize. Could you flip me back over there? Okay. So here's the BAA. And here's yet another reason why I really like this annuity. Now, granted, it has a little bit lower income to start out at. 20, you're less $180, $190 a month. Now, as I go through this, here's what I want you to think. If your client was sitting in my office and I was showing them this, I want you to ask yourself, would they choose the option of the BAA over what I'm about to show you, or would they choose the higher income? Now, let's start with column J. You'll notice it runs out of money. It's a negative number here. Guess what? Most of these annuities, if the market doesn't perform in early years, will run out of money. I don't care what the strategy is. And if we were to go down, it's going to probably run out in the early mid-80s. And sure enough, it's at 1992. And if we run this reverse, it runs out around the same time as the security benefit. So what we learned from that is annuities are actuarially sound in virtually most cases. But this is the real story I want to point out to you. In this client example, the 30-year back tested, the market went up in the early years. I want everyone to see that this is not a negative number. You'll notice parentheses, no parentheses. So this client took out a little less income every month to the tune of $180 to $190 less per month. But at the end of the 30-year period, they had almost the same $500,000 they started with, and their annual return net of rider fees was 3.13%. There's a reason I paused there. I want you to see that. How would you like to show your client, hey, on the security benefit product, you're going to get more money, but not a whole lot more. You're going to get more money, but you are virtually guaranteed to run out of money in your early 80s. Now, you'll still have your lifetime income benefit. Now, if you take a chance with this TVI index, based on its historic return, which is 0, you will run out of money before you reach your 80s. In comparison, this other annuity that I'm showing you, now notably I show my clients more than one solution. Why? They got to pick. If they pick, they own it. If I tell them, I own it. Here's the BAA product in comparison. As you see, it pays out a little less money every month. So you're going to, so if income's really important to you, maybe you have to cut back a little bit, but to the tune of $180 to $190 a month. But if you buy this in a period where the market goes up in the early years, 30 years later, when you're 90 years old, you still may have a chance of having nearly all of your $500,000. And if you don't, and the market goes down, Larry, you're still going to run out of money. You're still going to have your lifetime income. Now, let me ask you this. If your client saw this, what are they going to pick? Are they going to pick the option that guarantees they're going to run out of money? Or are they going to find a way to cut a little out of their budget? And mind you, if I have someone that retirement is key on $190 a month, I'm not going to tell them to retire. They're going to pick the option that gives them a chance to have their money in later years, and I'm going to show you why in a couple of slides. Why, as an agent, that's something you want for them too. So we're going to switch back over here to the slides. And I've heard people say, well, over a 5-year period, the TVA pays out more. Well, I ran the numbers, and if you look at this over a single life payout in this example for a male age 60, 5 years later, the difference between that and the BAA is 25 cents a month. Over a joint life period, it's $28 a month. But the big difference is while there's a slight advantage to the TVA annuity here, the big advantage is with the BAA and the way its crediting strategy works, your client still may actually have money, whereas the TVA will run out of money. So let's kind of net this out. Here's the pros for the TVA. It has high income in the early years. You can't beat it. There's virtually nothing that I've seen out there in the market that will do that, but it will run out of money. This is something you need to be aware of and your clients need to be aware of. It will run out of money. There's no question. The rider fees are assessed every year. Now, maybe like me, you let your clients know that, hey, this annuity has a feature that doubles your income for long-term care. Now, you need to be very specific, and I am so specific that I say it. This will double your money for long-term care so long as there is money in the annuity. I say it a couple times. There's a reason why. I don't want them to think it's long-term care insurance, and sometimes they do. Sometimes as agents, we miscommunicate to them. And I want them to understand. Because if a client has the TVA, and according to my numbers, it runs out into the early 80s, well, when do people really need long-term care? Is it in their early 80s? Couple. The ones most of them need it. Now we're looking at late 80s, early into their 90s. Well, even if the TVA has some sort of higher return because the TVI index did better, it's still going to run out of money before they were likely to use long-term care. So how would you like to have that call from your client? Hey, I'm about to go into long-term care, or maybe from the kids. Mom said that you sold her this annuity and we can double her income for long-term care, and we just signed up a contract with a nice place in town, and we really want to thank you for selling her this annuity, because if it wasn't for that doubled income, she might have to live with us or go to a place we don't want. And you're going to have to tell, well, it really wasn't a long-term care insurance policy. It only doubled if there was money in the annuity. And, well, that didn't quite work out. Well, that's funny, because Mom said that you said that this thing would average 7 to 8% a year. Why? You know what? Maybe we need to be calling our lawyer, because she said she bought this because it was going to make money and provide for her long-term care. And now you're telling me it's not. And the reason it's so important to communicate those features to your clients, because they need to know. These are how bad things happen to even good agents, because we don't communicate to them. The other thing I don't like about it is when, due to the cap, when the market's high, you're going to have to make excuses to your clients about why they didn't make that much money. And then when the TVI index isn't performing, you're going to have to somehow explain that. And then you're going to have to come up and tell them, oh, by the way, I didn't really clear to you that it was only invented in 2009. There's never been a historical return. And even though they claimed it could make money, well, it just hasn't for you. Those are reasons why I don't feel comfortable with this. If I was selling this product actively, I would write a CYA letter that explained that the long-term care doubler, while a feature of the annuity, if the annuity doesn't have any money, and it may not due to my back-tested results, that feature will not be available. In addition, due to the back-tested results of the TVI, it is likely to have a 0 or sub-average return compared to other annuities. If I had my clients sign that before they bought it, they wouldn't buy it. That's my point. So compare that to the BAA. The fees and spreads do not impact the principal. As the market goes down, you don't lose any money whether you put any of the riders on there. That's so powerful when your clients can't lose money. They love it. I mean, I've sold plenty of annuities where the income rider deducts off of the account balance, but when my clients come in with their BAA products and, hey, I saw the market was down, did I lose any money? Well, not only did you not lose any money, because you can't, there was no deduction for the fee. They say, hey, that's pretty cool. I have a product that if the company makes money, they charge their fee, and if they don't make money, they don't charge it. I don't know of another product that does that. Has liquidity in the first year, has the highest opportunity for accumulation of any annuity that I've looked at on the market. And I think while a lot of these index annuities aren't sold for accumulation purposes, if I did a comparison webinar between a variable annuity and the BAA, and I've done the data, I think you guys would be really surprised with how well this thing works. The income rider doubler, the SGO Max is in a league of its own. And if you have clients that are not going to use their annuity for a long period of time, that is a go-to place. You should really be looking at that. Inflation-adjusted income. I know there's other annuities that have it, but this one has it, and it's a fantastic. I like that. It's a great way to not only get more premium, but as a financial advisor, we know our clients need more income in the later years. You're not going to have to worry about your clients running out of money. Your clients will make money when the markets goes up. The strategy is designed for it. And you say, well, yeah, but it's only a 50-50 blend. I have clients that bought this thing in a 75-25 blend, and Aviva is still renewing at those rates. If I reran those numbers, you'd be amazed at how well this thing looks. So even though rates are low now, Aviva has been really good at keeping our old clients and having strong renewal rates, and I'm hoping in the years to come when the situation gets better, that my clients at 50-50 blends are going to get bumped up. You'll have a much higher lifetime income value if you take the inflation-adjusted option on this as well. But again, we may do another webinar later on kind of my research on that. Here's the big difference, low income in the early years. But I think if your clients saw the difference, they would be willing to do that. So let's kind of go ahead and wrap this up. And here's the end of the story with that couple that had the $700,000 and the extra $1 million. When they walked out of my office that day, they were excited. And they said, we're not sure exactly. We're going to wait for you to come back and show us a couple options. But the guy said, I'm looking forward to you earning my other $1 million. He bought without buying. And they're going to be back in another week, and we're going to look at some options. And I'm not a one-call close guy. I'm not a two-call close guy in most situations. But when they buy, they're going to be happy. And you know what I'm thinking? I got another $1 million coming in a couple of years. So my focus when I run my business is to be an advisor and an advocate for my clients. I love it when they come in with a product from another advisor, because my goal becomes to make sure when they leave my office, they never want to take another call from that other advisor. I'm going to tell them all the things that advisor never told them about their annuity. And when you start becoming an advocate and advisor for your clients and helping them, they will not only do business with you and want to refer business to you, they'll be happy with the business that you have. So do keep in mind that if you are out using the TVA annuity, that the returns will not meet their expectations long term. And I also want to suggest that if you really are saying, I do have clients, Steve, but I got a client that needs that income, that big income in the first year. I hear what you're saying, but they really need the money. Now, there's a product out there that's not available in California. And maybe if SAG will invite me back, we'll do a webinar on it. But if you like the income coming out of the TVA in the early years, you ought to be looking at this other product, because in my comparison, in my back-tested results, I think it's actually in some cases better than the BAA. And if you're using it for income, I think it's a no-regret product. So when this call is over, give your marketers a call. They're very familiar with it. If you're in California like me, well, then save yourself the trouble. You can call your marketer anyways, and they'll tell you about it, because when it comes out, I think it's a really cool product. And like I said, hopefully Bill and Steve will have me come back, and we'll do a presentation on it. So when you're on the phone with your marketer, if you like the presentation you saw today and you'd like to see more of what I do and how we break down these products to help you become an advisor, an advocate in your neighborhood and in your town, stop selling and start creating people that want to do business with you and are excited to do business with you and come to you because you're different than the other guy, then I'd be happy to do that and come back at a later time. So, Bill, I'm going to turn this back over to you, and I want to thank you and Steve and Todd and Robert and the whole team at Senior Advisory for supporting my business over the years. And because of that, we've reached some pretty incredible numbers, and we're going on some pretty incredible trips. And I'd like to see everyone on this call in the years to come join me, and I'll be happy to share what I'm doing to help you build your businesses as they've helped me build mine.
Thank you, everyone. And thank you, Steve. You did a great job. You spend a lot of time tweaking presentations, going through products, seeing what works, what doesn't work, and doing your real-world modeling. And we really appreciate the fact that you were able to share your experiences today and to give us some insight, being a top advisor. And this is really what we love to bring to the table at Senior Advisory Group. We offer the education. We have in-person 5-hour training here in Scottsdale. It's incoming. You need to talk to your advisor development rep for details. We have many recorded webinars out there on income planning, Social Security, qualified plans. We have these types of calls. In fact, this one is being recorded, so if you want to replay it again, it will be live. You will get the information that you need to listen to this again. We do personalized one-on-one calls here with the advisor development representatives. Steve's available for those calls, as am I. We love to do that. We love to talk to you guys. And also we have folks like Steve Van Meter to actually jump on the line as well. And we also do road shows. And I do want to talk about that real quick. We are going on the road. So if you're in the San Diego, Irvine, or the Chicagoland area, we're going to be in San Diego and Irvine May 7th through the 9th. We're going to be in Chicago May 14th and 15th. Call the office for details. See how you can be a part of that. We are just so excited about the Anexa story. And again, Steve, you did a great job of explaining why and how. But we have so much other information to share with you. We are only a phone call away. We can get even deeper with these strategies. We can talk to you about where they fit with your client, within your practice, and we can go as deep as possible so you understand what you're selling. And again, I want to thank everybody for taking time out of your day. Steve, thank you so much for all the prep you've done to deliver this call. We plan on doing these quite routinely. It's always great to hear from our top advisors. So with that, we're going to sign off, but we are ready to take your phone calls today. So please reach out to us. Let us help you take your business to the next level. Thanks a lot, everyone. Take care.